Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, Convener. Chapter 1. The words of Koheleth, son of David, sovereign in Jerusalem. Futility, futility, says Koheleth. Futility, futility, all is futile. What does man gain from all his labor in which he toils under the sun? A generation passes away, and a generation comes, but the earth stands forever. The sun also rises, and the sun sets, and hurries back to the place where it arose, going to the south, and turning round to the north, turning, and on its rounds the winds return. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea never overflows. To the place from which the rivers come, there they return again. All matters are wearisome, no one's able to speak of it. The eye's not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. What has been is what shall be. What has been done is what shall be done, and there's no new matter under the sun. Is there a matter of which it is said, "See, this is new"? It was here already, long ago. There is no remembrance of former ones, nor is there any remembrance of those that are to come by those who come later on. I, Koheleth, was sovereign over Israel and Jerusalem, and I set my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all that's been done under the heavens. This evil task Elohim has given to the sons of man to be humbled by it. I've seen all the works that are done under the sun, and see, all was futile and feeding on the wind. The crooked could not be straightened, and what is lacking could not be counted. So I spoke to my heart, saying, "See, I've attained greatness, and have gained more wisdom than all who were before me in Jerusalem. And my heart has seen much wisdom and knowledge. And I set my heart to know wisdom, and to know madness and folly. I know that this too is feeding on the wind. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases suffering. I said in my heart, "Come now, let me try you with rejoicing, and find out what is good." But see, that too was futile. I said, "Of laughter, it is madness, and of rejoicing, what does it do?" I searched in my heart how to stimulate my body with wine while guiding my heart with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly until I could see what was good for the sons of men to do under the heavens all the days of their lives. I made my works great. I built myself houses. I planted vineyards for myself. I made gardens and parks for myself, and I planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made pools of water for myself to water from them, a plantation of growing trees. I bought male and female servants, and I came to have sons of the household. Also, I had greater possessions of herds and flocks than all who were before me in Jerusalem. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and the treasures of sovereigns and of the provinces. I provided male and female singers for myself, and the pleasures of men, a woman, and women. Thus, I became great and increased more than all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. And all that my eyes desired I did not keep from them. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure. For my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my portion from all my labor. But when I looked on all the works that my hands had done, and on the labor in which I had toiled, see, all was futile, a feeding on the wind, and there was no gain under the sun. And I turned myself to look at wisdom and madness and folly, for what would the man do who comes after the sovereign, except what already has been done? Then I saw that wisdom is better than folly, as light is better than darkness. The wise one's eyes are in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. And I also knew that one event befalls them all. And I said in my heart, as the event of the fool, even so it befalls me. And why was I then more wise? Then I said in my heart, this is also futile. For there's no more lasting remembrance of the wise than of the fool, since in the days to come all's forgotten. And how does a wise man die? With the fool. And I hated life because the work that was done under the sun was evil to me, for all is futile and feeding on the wind. And I hated all my labor in which I had toiled under the sun, because I leave it to a man who would come after me. And who knows whether he is going to be a wise man or foolish? Yet he shall rule over all my labor in which I toiled, and in which I've shown myself wise under the sun. That, too, is futile. So I turned my heart and despaired of all the labor in which I had toiled under the sun. For a man might labor with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, yet he leaves his heritage to a man who has not labored for it. That too is futile and a great evil. For what does a man get for all his labor and strain of his heart with which he's toiled under the sun? For all his days are sufferings and his work grievous. Even in the night his heart takes no rest. That too is futile. A man could do no better but to eat and drink and enjoy himself in his labor. That too I saw was from the hand of Elohim. For who eats, or who finds enjoyment without him? For he gives wisdom and knowledge and joy to a man who's good in his eyes, but to the sinner he gives the task of gathering and collecting, to give to him who's good before Elohim. That too is futile and a feeding on the wind. Chapter 3. For every matter there is an appointed time, even a time for every pursuit under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for battle and a time for peace. What does the worker gain from his toil? I've seen the task Elohim has given to the sons of men to be humbled by it. He's made it all beautiful in its time, even the ages he's put in their hearts, except that no one finds out the work that Elohim does from beginning to end. I know there's no good for them but to rejoice and do good in their lives, and also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor. It's a gift from Elohim. I know that whatever Elohim does is forever. Forever. There's no adding to it. There's no taking from it. Elohim does it, that men should fear before him. Whatever is has already been, and what shall be has been before. But Elohim seeks out what has been pursued. Then, again, I saw under the sun, in the place of right ruling, wrongness was there. And in the place of righteousness, wrongness was there. I said in my heart, Elohim judges the righteous and the wrong, for there is a time for every matter and for every work. I said in my heart, concerning the matter of the sons of men, Elohim selects them so as to see that they themselves are beasts. For the event of the sons of men is also the event of beasts. One event befalls them. As one dies, so dies the other. Indeed, they all have one breath. Man has no advantage over the beasts, for all is futile. All are going to one place. All came from the dust, and all return to the dust. Who knows the spirit of the sons of men, which goes upward, and the spirit of the beast, which goes down to the earth? So I saw that man could do no better but to rejoice in his own works, for that is his portion. For who would bring him to see what shall be after him? Chapter 4. Then I looked again at all the oppression that is done under the sun, and see, the tears of the oppressed, but they have no comforter, and power on the side of their oppressors, but they have no comforter. Therefore, I commended the dead who were already dead more than the living who are still alive. And better than both is he who has never existed, who has not seen the evil work that is done under the sun. And I saw that all the toil and skill of the work bring envy between man and his neighbor. That too is futile and feeding on the wind. The fool folds his hand and consumes his own flesh. Better is a hand filled with rest than both hands filled with toil and feeding on the wind. Then I looked again at futility under the sun. There is one without a second who has neither son nor brother, and there's no end to all his labors. His eye also is not satisfied with riches. And for whom am I toiling and depriving myself of good? That too is futility and an evil task. Two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, one lifts his companion up, but woe to him who is alone when he falls, for he has no one to help him up. Also, if two lie down together, they keep warm. But how does one keep warm by himself? Although one might be overpowered, two withstand him, and a threefold cord is not readily broken. A poor and wise youth is better than an old and foolish sovereign who no longer knows how to take warning. For he comes out of prison to be sovereign, although in his reign he was born poor. I've seen all the living who walk under the sun. They were with the second youth who stands in his place. There was no end to all the people, all of whom he headed, but the one who comes afterward, do not rejoice in him, for that too is futile and a feeding on the wind. Chapter 5. Guard your steps when you go to the house of Elohim, and draw near to listen, rather than to give the slaughtering of fools, for they do not know what they do is evil. Do not be hasty with your mouth, and let not your heart hurry to bring forth a word before Elohim, for Elohim is in the heavens and you on earth. Therefore let your words be few. For a dream comes through the greatness of task, and a fool's voice is known by his many words. When you make a vow to Elohim, do not delay to pay it, for he takes no pleasure in fools. Pay that which you vowed. It's better not to vow than to vow and not pay. Do not allow your mouth to cause your flesh to sin, nor say before the messenger of Elohim that it was a mistake. Why should Elohim be wroth at your voice and destroy the work of your hands? For in much dreaming and many words, there's futility. But fear Elohim. If you see the oppression of the poor and denial of right ruling and righteousness in a province, don't be astonished at the matter, for a higher than the high is guarding, and there are higher ones over them. And the increase of the land is for all. The sovereign himself is served from the field. He who loves silver is not satisfied with silver, nor he who loves wealth and increase. That too is futile. With the increase of goods, there is an increase of those consuming them. What advantage then is there to their owners but to look on? Sweet is the sleep of a laborer, whether he eats little or much, but the plenty of the rich doesn't let him sleep. There is a sickly evil I've seen under the sun, riches kept for their owner for his evil, but those riches perish through evil use. And he brings forth a son, and there is naught in his hand. As he came naked from his mother's womb, so he returns to go as he came. And from his labor, which goes into his hand, he takes none whatsoever. And this too is a grievous evil. Exactly as he came, so he goes. And what gain has he, since he toiled for the wind? All his days he also eats in darkness and with much sorrow and sickness and wrath. See what I have seen. It is good and beautiful for one to eat and drink and to enjoy the good of all his labor in which he toils under the sun all the days of his life, which Elohim gives him. For it's his portion. Further, when Elohim has given any man riches and wealth and permitted him to enjoy them and to receive his portion and rejoice in his labor, this is a gift of Elohim. Though it not be much, let him remember the days of his life, because Elohim bears witness by the gladness of his heart. And chapter 6. There is an evil which I've seen under the sun, and it's great among men, a man to whom Elohim has given riches and wealth and esteem, so that his being lacks none at all of what he desires. But Elohim does not permit him to eat of it, and a foreigner consumes it. This is futile, and it is an evil disease. If a man brings forth 100 children and lives many years, so that the days of his years are many, but his being's not satisfied with goodness, or indeed has no burial place, I say that a premature birth is better than he. For it comes in futility and goes away in darkness, and in darkness its name is covered. Even the sun it has not seen. It has more rest than that man. And though he lives 1,000 years twice over, yet he shall not see goodness. And do not all go to one place. All the labor of man is for his mouth, and yet the appetite's not satisfied. For what advantage has the wise over the fool? What advantage does the poor have who knows how to walk before the living? What the eyes see is better than what the desire goes after. That too is futile, a feeding on the wind. Whatever shall be has already been named, and it is known that he is son of Adam. And he is unable to contend with him who's mightier than he. The more words, the more futility. What is to man the advantage? For who knows what is good for man in life, all the days of his futile life, which he passes like a shadow? For who declares to man what shall be after him under the sun?